And it has happened too at times. You know, the traffic will start moving after you get to that state. Um, but again, I think when you get into the negative side of it, you know, the worry, the fear, I'll never make it. Well, Jung said this years ago, because I was talking to you about, you know, you're flying and I'll take care of the weather. He was in Africa.
And you didn't.
There was a drought. And the people asked a rainmaker to come. And Jung wanted to talk to him about how he managed it. But the guy said, I don't talk. And he went in a hut and locked himself in. Within a day or two, it started to rain. Then he came out. And Jung said, tell me, how do you manage? He said, it's about the consciousness of the people. If I stay with them, I can't make it rain. They are the problem. But if I go in there and I meditate, it rains. And after I read that, I really said, okay, then if my consciousness is right, I won't miss anything. And I have never missed anything because of flights or anything else. And that may sound crazy, but we got on one plane up in Hartford, and they announced that the weather in Canada is terrible. So they're going to ask several people to leave the plane so it's lighter and they won't run out of fuel if they have to go to another air. Well, by the time they were done announcing that, the whole plane said, I'm getting the hell out of here. But I couldn't. I have to go give a lecture. So my wife and I are sitting there. I think there were 4 people in the whole plane then. And on the way, I learned, see, because we're going to be there an hour or so late, how are we going to make a connection? And then I learned that the pilot of our plane is the pilot of the next plane. So when I got to the airport, I said, where's the flight to Calgary? Oh, that left hours ago. I said, no, it didn't. Here's the pilot. So we walked over and got on the next plane. But that's the part you think, like, who managed that? Who worked that out for you? But those are the kinds of things that would happen. And the other, which I think also on a hypnotic level is very powerful. I read this many, many times in a book that's entitled Reflections on the Art of Living. And I love that term because of the water, because I've started calling my lectures Reflections on the Art of Living and Healing. But it's by Joseph Campbell. He said, Nietzsche said, love thy fate. And Campbell said, no matter what the hell happens, say, why do I need this? And I realized those were things I was asking people. Say, how do you benefit from an illness? I didn't have the depth of wisdom, say, that a Campbell would have or some therapist, but I knew that for some people, because I saw it in the office, the disease was their way of getting attention and manipulating and controlling their family. You know, it's like you don't want to go to school, you get a sick day. I began to give our kids health days. Literally, we have 5. I'd say, look, every semester you have 5 health days. You can miss a week of school, and you don't have to give me a reason. You just have to say, Dad, I'm taking a health day. What did it do? They didn't have to get sick anymore. So if they didn't want to go to school one day or want to do something with a friend or something, just stay in bed, they'd come in and say, I'm taking a health day, rather than, oh, I feel sick, I'm going to throw up, you know, yeah. And it empowered them, I think, to understand that they had that ability. The other was that when you say, why do you need this? You learn from it. Okay? So the curse becomes a blessing. Mm-hmm. And this is, again, written by a rabbi, because I used the word complete earlier on. He said that when you read the Bible, you know, everything God created, God saw it was good. When God created man, that sentence does not follow. But the word good doesn't have meaning anymore. It should be complete. The animals are, man is not. And what helps us become complete can sometimes be painful, but it still is a blessing. And I think that's what Campbell is saying in another way. If you say, why do I need this? You learn from it. See, then it's a gift, wake-up call, blessing, new beginning. My wife happens, well, many, many, many years ago, she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And what was predicted hasn't happened, okay? But she has some problems now. And if I act like the doctor, you know, fix this, do that, honey, you got it. But when I read that sentence by Campbell, why do you need this? I realized why I need it is to teach me about caring and loving, yeah, and enjoying the day, rather than the doctor part of me, yeah. when one of our kids was 7, he had complained his leg hurt. So I said, take a hot bath. He said, no, I need an x-ray. I said, you're 7 years old, what the hell do you know? We took an x-ray, he had a bone tumor.
Oh.
And really about 95% of the odds were that this is, well, 2 types that are malignant. And I thought, I'm an idiot, and told him to take a bath. So I've delayed treatment. And number 2, he'll be dead in a year. So I try to explain to my wife and his siblings that he'd probably be dead in a year. And the next morning, I never forget this, he came in to where I was sitting at the desk, and he said, Dad, can I talk to you for a minute? Remember, he's 7 years old. I said, yeah, what is it, Keith? He said, you're handling this poorly. He said, we're trying to have fun and go out and play, and you want us in our room depressed, you know? And it was like, wow, thank you. He taught me, you know. See, the animals and the kids understand. Live today. Yeah. And again, why this makes for survival. We have a dog with a malignant melanoma. The vet said to me, I've never seen a dog this sick recover, so I ought to euthanize him. I said, I got to tell the kids, you can't, you know, they have to participate in this. I go home, I say to the kids, we need to put Oscar to sleep. And they said, no. I said, what do you mean, no? They said, you don't put your patients to sleep, you're not putting Oscar to sleep. So I brought him home. Loved the hell out of him. I mean that literally. I spent time massaging him, hugging him, spoon-feeding him. If I took vitamins, I gave him a few of them. And I noticed within a week he's walking around the house, and next week he's outdoors with the other 2 dogs, and he lived for years and did not die of cancer. You know, he's a lot like my landscaper. But I think that, again, the kids kept teaching me, if you're going to live the sermon,
live it.
Then go ahead and watch what happens. So it emphasized for me that, yes, this is meaningful, and there is survival behavior. As I say, I always say the bitterest people in heaven are the vegetarian meditating joggers, because they wish they had slept late and, you know, had some other things to eat and so forth. But it's living, this is probably the best hypnotic statement. You have 15 minutes to live, what would you do? And I went around the room with these people. And I thought, some of them, it's like, what is the matter with you? You know, from their answers. And our son said, I buy a quart of chocolate ice cream and eat it. And I said, you're enlightened. I don't have to worry about you. And then somebody else in the room said, wait a minute, what if that's my chocolate ice cream, what I told you? Because there are things like, I'll work in my garden, you know, it wasn't, you know, about all my loved ones. It was things that, but when they said, what if that's my chocolate ice cream? Okay. That's what we need to help people do. What's your chocolate ice cream? Go and live your chocolate ice cream. And then some wonderful things happen when the body, you know, senses this is your chocolate ice cream.
You know, I think it'd be a pretty safe bet to presuppose that all those people who died in the Twin Towers that day didn't make a phone call saying, USOB, I'll get even with you one day. You know, they died thinking about love, who they loved and what they loved.
Yeah, and that's, see, if we accept our mortality, which I really try to get people to do, then you think about your lifetime and how you spend it. See? So you don't, in other words, the people who died, yeah, they may have picked up their cell phone, called home and said, I love you, but when they walked out of the houses, don't forget to stop at the laundry, don't forget, you know, to get me a quart of ice cream, or, you know, to get to the supermarket today, yeah. And that's the part of me. I appreciate the fact that I'm going to die. But that's my therapy. So I don't, see, I control one thing, what's going on in here. Everything else is beyond my control. But I don't let, therefore, people drive me crazy. I don't give my power away. One of my self-inflicted trances was after our hotel room was robbed by somebody who knew what was in the room and opened it with a key and took it and left. So I know damn well whoever cleaned our room called somebody and said, hey, go in there, there's valuable things. And I had seen this weird man in the hallway, wondering, why is he standing in the hallway? He's not going in a room, he's not knocking on a door. That doesn't make sense in a hotel. But I never stopped to think he's there to rob you. So when my wife came out of our room, I mean, here was this guy just standing in the hallway. We got in the elevator, went and got dinner, and we came back. The room had been robbed. So I know who did it. And I keep waking up every day wishing I was back in the hallway and get even with the son of a bitch and, you know, beat the crap out of him and then call the police and on and on. And then I realized he's still robbing you. Okay? Like that woman who said my mother's words are eating away at me. Her mother's dead, and she's still hearing her mother. And me and my crazy, in a sense, therapeutic humor, Christmas came. And I thought, what did he do with the money if he robbed us? He bought his kids Christmas presents.
Great reframe.
Now, if he'll call me, I'll throw in another $100 so he really gets him something nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when our son had his house, his garage was robbed of equipment, I said to him, don't be upset. What do you mean, Dad? I got to call the police. I said, no. The guy has not bought his mother a present for her birthday in 10 years. Now that he's robbed you, he's getting his mother a birthday present. And our son looks at me like, you are out of your mind. But you see, he had a grin on his face now.
Yeah.
So he's calling the police, telling them, but with a grin, and not all the aggravation he had over, you know, somebody breaking into his garage and stealing his equipment. And that's why. So that's the part I always carry with me, that, you know, the knowledge that I'm in charge of what goes on in my head. And I can be, in a sense, my own therapist and keep, you know, working on it that way.
One last question, Bernie. When I read your book, Love, Medicine, and Miracles, years ago.
Right.
And I don't recall specific, you know, quotes or pages of it, but what came through in that book was just an incredible sense of love. Love for your patients, love for your fellow man. Where did that come from? I mean, I can just see the book on the shelf now, and I can feel
I didn't
good.
realize that my childhood was not normal.
Yeah.
See, like this boy Tony who wanted to commit suicide, see, when he would get beaten up and go to school, he'd say, oh, I fell off my bike. See, what I do now when I go into school is say, everybody write a suicide note for homework, and then write a love note. Why you worth loving, why you ought to commit suicide. When the kids see that the suicide pile is like that and the love pile is like that, they start saying, I'm not the only one. And they start talking to each other, and the suicide rate goes down because they don't have to lie anymore. I assumed everybody else in the school was loved. That's why I got into trouble years ago, by how I asked questions. See, I grew up with a mother, Mom, what should I do? Do what'll make you happy. Ma, I had a lousy day. God is redirecting you. Something good will come of this. That drove me nuts as a kid. I mean, I figured, you don't care, you know? I mean, why aren't you helping me? But what she did, she was my hypnotherapist, see?
Yeah.
And his father died when he was 12. And he said, I learned something. What? Material things are to make your life easy. Because his father had TB, no insurance, 6 kids. They were in hell. He said, I learned material things are to help make people's lives easier. So you see, money was not something you try to accumulate or impress people with.